Holly Cotton here, and you guys know I am all about the female empowerment. And anytime that I can share someone's story with you guys to inspire, to motivate, to show people that are being the change, I definitely seize the opportunity. So I'm so excited about our guest today. I have Dr. Nicola Mitchell. She is a change disruptor, author, producer, writer. She's also the founder of Girls Who Brunch Tour, and she is going to share not only her unique story, but what she's doing to be the change. So, welcome, Dr. Mitchell.
Hey girl, hey, how are you?
Great, great, great. So before we go into all of the 52 jobs that you have that I just listed, a little bit of the iceberg, I want to go back and I want to, because you guys, she also has a Lifetime movie about her. I didn't even say that. Like that, like that should be at the first thing that we start with, because that's huge to be someone that has such a monumental, inspiring story that someone wants to tell it on TV and the movie scene. So, first of all, can you go back and sort of just give us your life story and then how you got to this point?
Hey y'all, hey, my name is Dr. Nicola Mitchell. I am the founder of Girls Who Brunch Tour. When I came to America, I was really young. And my mother, she was in the space of just working. I didn't meet my mom for 9 years since I was born. So coming there almost 10 years being alone, not having any children, she was in a different space in her life, right? So I was left alone a lot. And I was dependent on church to give me solitude and grace. I was an introvert. We moved to the hood, right? They didn't really understand what the Caribbean background was. So I was being picked on a lot because I had an accent. It was really hard for me when I first came to America. So at 14, I'm at church and I was raped by my choir director. And he raped me because I was trying to stop him from doing something to somebody else because I knew what her background was. And it really made me think something was wrong with me, right? So I ended up having sex a couple weeks later because my 14-year-old mind, I thought if I had sex with somebody who I wanted to have sex with, it would fix it. But really what it did was set me up for failure a little bit because I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. I did not know if she belonged to my rapist or to their dad until she came out. So at 14 years old, find out you're pregnant, whatever. I had my baby 5 days after my 15th birthday. And I was raped 3 more times after that by 3 other people that were supposed to be protecting me. So I really, really, really thought something was super wrong with me. But what the devil means for bad, I believe in that God means for good because I use my daughter as my grace of what I was going to change my life. She was not going to experience anything that I experienced. So I used her as my motivator to keep pushing and switch my life around. I ended up having my second daughter at 19, and I just really felt like a failure. Every time I kept trying to do better, I kept taking 20 steps back. And I had a couple more flops. I ended up marrying their dad really young, ended up started being beat up. I had my daughter, she passed away. I had a third daughter, Deani. She ended up passing away. And all by the age of 21. So by 22, 23, I said, I'm going to change my life. I don't like the way this is going. I'm not going to be the same as my family or my siblings. I'm not going to just sit here and deal with this hand that I'm dealt. I'm gonna recreate the hand. So I was working, start going to school, and at my undergrad graduation party, I was there to write a book about this relationship that I was in. And who would have known? I'm an overachiever Capricorn. I became a bestseller 10 months later, and the rest is history. I have 20 books now. I just released another one yesterday, a workbook. I have helped over 1,000 authors put their books out, from Omar Tyree, Tamika Scott from Escape. I did her cookbook. the U.S. Dreams Academy, and so many other people. And from there is how I ended up in Charleston, South Carolina, and I met this group of girls who were in a worse situation than I was when I was in a third world country. And that's what motivated me to start Girls Who Brunch Tour. 42,000 girls later, we're about to go into year 9. That's my background. So again, I always have to tell that story about being quiet, being confused, not thinking I was good enough, and how those things empower me to become the person I am today.
And I love that. I love that. And I actually, that's so funny because my initiative this year is adolescent mental health. So I'm still like in the beginning phases of doing all the PR for my book series, which is about affirmations for adolescents. So I'm actually working with Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Like I have all these things that I'm like working on for this year because I think that people don't realize the importance of that instrumental age. And especially if you don't have parents, for
Right,
me, I always had like my dad was always like, oh, hey, beautiful. He still talks to me like that when I call him. But my mom wasn't like the supportive person. She never was like, there was no talk of self-love in my house. There was nothing like that. Like hey, you made that choice, now you deal with it. You shouldn't have did
right,
that, now you're stuck. Okay, all right, well, you want to be grown, go do grown folk stuff. Like there was never a break, or there was never a way of me to know that I could go back home or I could get help. I just assumed this was my life and I had to
right,
live that way. So I think that is so important for us to be able to, like you said, give back. And these are ways of us figuring out how to go back and find those holes that we had. So before we go into all of the Girls Who Brunch tour and those types of things, what I want to do is I want to just go back and ask about, so whenever you look at who you are today and the self-love that you have and the way that you feel about yourself today, what are some of the things that you wish? Because I know it's easy to say, oh, I wish I would have loved myself, or I wish that, someone had told me my worth. But what are some of like the specific things that you think that might have helped, or something that could have prevented you from being in the situations coming from where you are now and looking back?
I think if I had somebody just to be honest with what their situations are, I had 9 sisters, right? Every one of my sisters had been molested and raped. My mother had stuff happen to her, right? But everything was always taboo. We didn't talk about it. So I think if I knew, then they could have protected me more. One of my older sisters, she actually called me a couple months ago and she was apologizing, right? And I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I appreciate the apology, but if no, this is what a generational curse is. And when people do not know how to express, if people do not know how to let it go, right, and not to sweep it under the rug, we can't break the curses. So I'm not mad at my family for um, not telling me or protecting me in that way. Because I think if I had that fair warning, like I gave my children, I think we would have had a different circumstance. But I think it's a lot of people, and especially immigrants, a lot of minority people, but especially immigrants, you just don't talk about things, right? And it's going to be okay. I think if we need to make that conversation a little bit more regular and not just commercialized, because I am about to start with this year's tour season is on mental health for the girls. It's called Hidden Emotions, right? So I would love to have you be a part of that. But I want to break down the stigma that these kids are having and that they're weaponizing mental health against their parents. And let's fix it, right? Let's really get to the root of it and fixing it. But I think that if we had those conversations before, what would this generation be? But I think we needed to go through this so we can fix this going forward generation.
Yeah, I know. I always say that too. I'm always like, well, you know what? Would I really be the person that I am today? Or would I be as focused on being the change if I didn't go through stuff? And I'm always like, you know what? But let me tell you something, God. I didn't need to go through it that hard. Like, I just needed a little bit of a kick in the butt. I didn't need the whole, I need the full service. Like, I just needed a little bit. You didn't really
Right.
have to break me down like you broke me down, but so
Right.
sometimes I think that too. So let's go back to, because you're the whole story about your first book is definitely something that's super inspiring. So can you go back, tell us about the first book, the name of the book, how that process went, when you decided to write the first word for it. Give us all of the details about that, because that definitely sounds like something super exciting.
The book was called Over and Over Again, and it's still one of my best sellers 17 years later, right? And it was about, I made the main character's name Deani after my daughter that passed away. And she was in a relationship, she walked away to get into another relationship that she thought was better because of the presentation that he gave her, but it was almost mimicking, right? And then there her friends and things, around her, people were going through the same thing. So it was just talking about how we as women go through certain stuff over and over again. But even though these men are different, we're still attracting the same type of characteristics because that's what we're bringing to us. We all have pheromones that we put out, right? We project out. And sometimes when we still have those insecurities, when we have that hurt, those things we didn't deal with inside, we're attracting people that are attracted to those things, right? So even though they make the presentation may be different, that's the same characteristics of these men. And so I was in a situation with a guy for some years. I mean, he had took me on a high speed chase. He had women just everywhere. I would be at school and coming out from undergrad, coming home. It was just crazy. I can laugh about it now because every time I talk to him, I still talk to him. I'm like, thank you, because my life wouldn't be what it is if you didn't take me through that, right? And I used to journal it. I used to just write.
That's the part where you just like, I just needed a little bit of it. I didn't need all of that. I just needed a little bit. Like, you ain't have to
Exactly.
cut up that bad.
Just this much, right? And when he remembers it, he remembers this much. I'm like, no, bro, I got it documented because I used to write it all down. And at my undergrad party, my cousin and I graduated together, and we were going through the journal with our friends, and they were like, you should write a book. And that was a dare. And you can't tell me to do something. I'm going to do it, right? And the process was interesting because back then self-publishing was kind of taboo. So you had to get like a distributor, you had to purchase 2,000 books at a time. You had to warehouse it. It was a lot. It wasn't as Amazon publishing. And so I just studied it, and I wanted to be comparable to like Zane, Omar Tyree, people like that, right? I wasn't looking at anybody else that was self-published as who my competition was. And that's how I became a bestseller. I was working in a hospital, and I used my job to the doctors to pay for tables, right, at different big author events, right? I would go have their stuff on the table, but also have my stuff on the table. And before I even had the book, I had the first chapter, a poster size copy, and handouts. So I sold 800 copies of that book for $10 before the book was even out. So by the time the book dropped, people have thought that I've been out for a long time, but I was just pre-selling. I became a master at pre-selling. And I did that with each book, right? So by book 4, I was able to quit my job and be a full-time writer. I made my first 6 figures by year 4. Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. And I love that. And I love that you are also sharing that information, because it's almost like by telling your story, you're also like educating people on the process and giving tips and hints of things too, because a lot of people will just say, yeah, I wrote my book and then that's it, or yeah, I self-published or whatever. But how you just threw all those tips in there as well, things that work for you, for someone who's listening and inspired by your story, that's like, oh, that should be some notes like to take. Or, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I should do that. Oh, that's how she did it. Okay, I'm gonna do it like that too. People have to learn. Whenever people are telling a story, they're giving you some gems. You just have to take it. So I love that you're sharing that and so open with that. So go into the whole part, because of course now I want to know about the movie part,
Okay.
because you write a book and then all of a sudden you're on a movie. And because I've stalked your social media, so I was like, well, let me study her, let me go back, let me look like 5 years back, because I hate when I get on, I don't know anyone's life or
Right.
whatever, but when you're on social media you can go back 5 years. Where were they 5 years ago? Where did they start? So I kind of know a little bit about it, so it's very intriguing and interesting. So go back, because I want to know how that happened, where you're just all of a sudden you got a whole movie now.
So I never wrote a story about my life. I was just doing media like this. I won the L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth Award in 2019. And so, funny story, when they had their PR department sit down with me about what outlets that I wanted to be on, I had in my head The Breakfast Club, Roland Martin, things like that. And they were like, okay, Reader's Digest, The Inquirer. I was like, Reader's Digest, those is for old people, right? I was low key offended, right? But I was like, okay, I never question what anybody says. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go along with it. That article in Reader's Digest is what Lifetime found, and they wrote the first story about me, and they did when we were doing sitting down just like this, and I was talking about my mentor and how he pretty much saved my life. Like, I used to get in a lot of fights because I was angry, right? I was hurt. I'm a rape victim. I wasn't talking about it. So when they were bullying me, I was fighting, and he he put me in situations to change my life. So he had me starting to compete for AXO Youth Olympics, because he said I had very well oratory skills. I didn't even know what that meant. He had me in Upward Bound. He was the director of Upward Bound. And even with the baby, he had me in the program. And he made all these provisions and things for me. And so when I told the story about my mentor, they were like, oh, that's a beautiful love story. Like, people never talk about it like that. He didn't give up on you. So they did a second article, right? And so they keep refreshing those articles periodically. So at that time, it was right around COVID, and like COVID was ending, and they republished the second article like it was brand new. And Lifetime's producers found it. So they came to me on social media. Everybody tells you if somebody come to you with no icon, that's not real. No, respond to everybody. That's the best piece of advice I can give, because the producer, she did not have an icon. She messaged me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and she emailed me from my website. And they found me from a Reader's Digest article. So the best piece of advice, because everybody always asks me, well, what book did you write? I'm like, no, just work. Just work and never turn down any space to tell your story. I don't care if it's a blog talk interview. I don't care what it is. So even if you feel like it does not align with your mission, because I did not think Reader's Digest aligned with mine, and I got a whole movie out of it, and a wonderful relationship with Lifetime right now. So it's like, it's your work speaks for itself if that's really what you're doing, and that's where the movie came from.
Hmm. Okay. You know what? And it's so funny, because so my like I guess my informal mentor, but it's so funny because so like 2022 was pretty much like my first year from going from author to podcast host to like figuring out this media space, whatever. So I remember the January 1st, 2023, that was the advice he said. He said, okay, now you built your name up, you did this. He was like, now 2023 is the year, don't say no to nothing.
Yes.
And he was like, whatever it is, as long as it's within reason, it's not something crazy or whatever. He was like, don't say no to nothing. And so I always get invited to all of these events, and people want, they come out, be out, whatever, because they know that you know how it is
Mm-hmm.
when you're an influencer. Now people want you in their space now, this and that. And I would be like, this sounds like some weird, like it sounds boring or this is shady or what. And I would go and I would wind up meeting someone else who put me in a different room or who did this, or now I'm in a different area. Now I'm in this city or that city or that city. So, but it's all because of that advice. The same thing, kind of like you said, it's just like you have to put yourself out there. And a lot of people, they have an idea and they're like, this is the goal that I want. And I'm only doing things that are on this path. But sometimes to get there is a whole lot of extra stuff that can help you get there. So I love
And
that
let me
advice.
add
That's
this too.
great
I
advice.
think people, it's good to watch social media, but people cannot tell your story off of social media and think that's the blueprint, because I only share with the public what I want to share, and they don't know me, right? But so many people think they know you because of what you post. And so I think if people really take the time to get to know people, like nurture real relationships as well, that can also put you in the room. Like you work, you're doing these things, you're networking, but really nurture those conversations, nurture these relationships, right? Because you don't know where us meeting a couple weeks ago, we're here. We don't know what's going to happen the next couple months, you know? You don't know. I would love to come back this time next year and let's talk about everything we've done between now and then, right? But a lot of people, they're more about self instead of about what can we do, that reciprocity. And the reciprocity will really is also the other thing that help catapult what you're doing, because I wouldn't be able to say I've serviced 42,000 girls, not by myself. It's a lot of people that came in and believed in me, but it's a lot of people that I gave out to as well.
I love that addendum.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you. I love I love that. I love that. Okay, so so we got producer, writer, author, and now we're gonna go into Girls Who Brunch tour. So I know you kind of mentioned a little bit about that. So tell us exactly like what the mission statement is. What is it that you're trying to achieve with the Girls Who Brunch tour?
With Girls Who Brunch, we take girls ages 9 through 17 and we give them a girls empowerment conference. We bring in girls from the sex trade, girls in group homes, girls in foster care, and we put them with girls from a better circumstance. Nobody knows your background. We're all coming in. It's almost like a sorority type setup. We're coming in. We're all sisters when we're in there. And we're subliminally teaching them. We have DJs, we have performers. They're turning up, all that. First, they're getting prizes for dancing. But then by the end of the day, they're getting prizes for what they learned. And we have workshops, panels, discussion, just all kind of things going on. It's a high-end field trip, right? It's been comparable to a lot of these six-figure conferences. That's what I've been told. I'm putting on six-figure conferences for kids. And we're just able to just let them turn up and have a good time, and they're learning. And I just took the background of my book launches. Like I would have performers, I had the panel discussions, and I just added on the workshops. And just started taking care of girls. We've never had really less than 250 girls unless the venue does not allow for that many girls, right? So we always have 250 and up. My biggest one that I've had was 1,000 girls at one time. And we bring in different celebrities. So, like, say we're in Chicago, we brought in the kids from The Shy. We were in Vegas for Super Bowl. We brought in everybody. Alicia Clark from the WNBA. Um, Aisha, she's a producer of Xbox. I brought in all the female gamers, and I just want them to see it. A lot of times we don't know that we can achieve it if we don't see it. And then another thing is, I don't care how big you are. I don't care how influential you are. When you come into Girls Who Brunch, it's congresswomen all the way down to the teacher who's coming to speak. You are going to let that ego go. We're not Beyonce. We did not just wake up like this. We're going to tell these girls, what did we do to get here? Right? I make the speakers dance. It's so fun, right? So when they see this, now they're breaking down even more. Like, oh my gosh, she's dancing. She's this. Now they're going to be receptive to listen to what you're saying. And that is why my retention rate has been what it is, because everybody is all in one playing field, from the speakers all the way down to the girls.
And actually, I'm so glad that you said that because that was actually I was going to sort of sidebar and go into another question because I was going to say that it seems now, and especially maybe because I'm in more spaces or I know more people, but it seems like everyone has a brunch, a dinner, a something, or they're trying to do a nonprofit, or they're trying to do women empowerment, and I love that. My hashtag is always whole team
Right.
winning because I think everybody there's enough room for everybody to be successful. But I do know sometimes I go to some events and I'm like, this wasn't really well thought about or organized. And sometimes I go to events and I'm like, wow, my mind is blown away. And so I know that you gave a couple of little snips about what makes yours successful, but I would like to just sort of maybe use your I guess your brunch in the success rate of it to educate and sort of share that information with other women who maybe aren't at the level you are, but say they are in some small city and they're trying to do what you're doing. Like they're like, you know what? I want to do that here. So, what are some tips that you have for people like in those starting stages? Because it's hard to figure out PR or what is right PR? How do I get people to advance? What is the cost for tickets? What is the appropriate cost? Like, there's not a lot of resources for those people that want to do that. So, what is some advice that you have for people that are in that starting phase or that maybe they've done an event, it was terrible and now they want to try again? Like, what's some advice that you have for those people with the
Okay,
events?
so shameless plug. I do have a
And as I was saying it, I knew you were going to say it. I was like, and I know she
I
has a
do
course
have
that
a
does
course on
events.
this. It's one coming up on the 20th, and it's showing people how to leverage that their events, right? So if you're in the starting space or if you're in the bigger space, I'm teaching people on how to start from beginning to the next level on how to leverage their events. The biggest thing that I say is this: when you do the first event, really have a good, bad, and ugly meeting with your team, right? Go over everything, write it down, and fix those things, right? Even all the way down for registration and questions and things like that. If there's all these things that are happening, write those things down and add those to your frequently asked questions. A lot of times when people ask me questions, I'm like, if you read it's very detailed, the emails that we send out. Plus, we do videos. We have an actual video that's in the email body of the email with instructions. We do a Zoom meeting before the speakers come in, so to let you know what to prepare for from the green room, things like that. We do it again for the volunteers. Everybody is educated. Only people that do not know what they're going to get are the girls when they come there, right? But I think that's the problem too, as well. Sometimes with these events, we have these grandiose ideas. We want to do it, but we're really not putting people in position. We may have a lot of people for volunteers, but we really didn't outline what those roles are. And in the beginning, I didn't know. I wasn't an event planner. I wrote books, right? And when I would do my book launches, it would be I'm coming into a space and it's already set up, right? So this was different. I'm actually going into hoods, into these buildings and recreating them in a night. And then, we got linen, tablecloths, chair covers, centerpieces. It's almost like a wedding, the setups that we put out. And then we were putting this event on. So I really had to train my volunteers. And in the beginning, I felt crazy because I wasn't able to pay anybody. And so, like, how am I asking you to do these things? But if your people believe in you, they want the best for you because their name is on this as well, and make it a family. I think a lot of times too that me, it's mine, that again, that ego is what make us fail. I think if we're doing this, and because my Girls Who Brunch to Our Family is a family, right? So even to the point that my girls graduate and now they're helping put those events together in those cities. So it's a reason why if people who have been with us, we're going to year 9, have still been with us from the beginning, right? And we may have a couple of people fall off because their life is not allowing them to do this anymore or whatever. But for the most part, we've had the same people. But it's because we really I really hone in that training. I love getting the compliments of who trained your team, right? The team is what makes the event. It's not about me. The team is what makes the event. So if you give your team the resources that they need, and it doesn't necessarily have to be fully monetary, right? If they're, you guys can look up free stuff, whatever, but write out your wish list for every sector of that event and then ask, right? Ask people for it, look for free resources, and learn on what you need to do. And that is what makes these events successful.
Okay, and you can get her
Yes, you can
course
get my
too.
course, and I give actually like handouts. I have a book, a workbook of like exactly how to write your sponsorship documents out. I have, breaking down the event, like the question you asked about the budget, depending on what you want to spend. Um, I have a lot of in kind stuff. So, how to make that make sense. That sounds beautiful, but I still got to ship this stuff, right? So, even allocating the cost for shipping per item, So, yeah, that's what the course is about.
Okay. Okay. Good information. Good teamwork. Good teamwork. I brought it in. You talked about.
Come on,
Love
friend.
it. Love it.
We need to take this on the road.
I know, right? So, do you have any ideas about an event planning? And you're like, well, actually, Holly, I have a whole course about.
Girl, yes.
I,
And I didn't, and I
I
really
love
didn't
it.
have
I
one
love it.
before. I apologize. It was because of the movie. Because all these people start watching the movie because the movie is about my life, but it's about girls who brunch. So all these people are like, how did you do this? Oh my gosh! You keep being asked the same question over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm like, okay, and I'm doing all these consultations. Let me just do this, and then if you want the one-on-one, then it's a little bit more. But I can give you this at this level. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because I get tired of saying the same. And that's why I wrote my first book, because my first book was my autobiography about
Okay.
breast cancer. And because I felt like I had told the story so many times, and everyone was asking me to come speak on panels and come do this, and can I be the keynote speaker? And I was like, wait, y'all really want to hear about my story? Okay. So, so I was like, you know what? Let me
Right.
write a book about this. So done. Okay, so you already know. So, all right. So, how can people find you again if they want to do the event course? How do they do the event course if they have someone that they want to be part of the Girls Who Brunch tour, or if they want to volunteer? How can they help and how can they
So
find
you
you?
can follow me at I am Nicola. That's NICOLA.com. You can follow Girls Who Brunch Tour at girls, plural, who brunch tour, all one word.com. It's Girls Who Brunch Tour on all social media networks. And if you go to my website, you can purchase a ticket for the course. You can purchase a ticket for Girls Who Brunch. Most of the events we are trying going forward to make them all be free. Um, before the ticket costs were $25. But I've been dealing with a lot of great partners. So we're trying to make sure every city that we're going to going forward is free. We are also in our fundraising season. So we're having the She Dreams weekend here in Atlanta, Georgia, Memorial Day weekend. Well, shoot, week because it starts on the 23rd and it's 5 days. We have the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Awards we're giving out to people in sports who give back to kids. We're having a Welcome to Atlanta event at the Museum of Illusions on Friday. We have the day conference, the She Dreams Day Conference that we're bringing it. We're partnering with Microsoft. That's going to be amazing. We have our celebrity basketball game on Sunday and our Tutus and Tennis Shoes Gala on Monday. Everything that weekend is going to go towards the organization. Our goal is to raise $500,000. That is just for the tour budget. So that would allow all the girls to be able to attend the tour for free. And if you want to volunteer, if you go to contact us on Girls Who Brunch Tour and or my website, it's a link to say you want to volunteer, you would like to speak, you would like, there's a link for everything whatever you want to do is pretty self-explanatory. And my team is amazing. They respond if you have any questions. They're responding. If you're on my website, you're not talking to me. I'm gonna tell you that up front. but they will put you in a meeting with me. So I will be there. I will give you all the gems because I want everybody to grow. I want all my friends to be amazing. And I want everybody that's around me to be amazing as well.
I love that. See, girl, I
Love you
loved you.
too.
I knew. We vibe from the
Yes,
first time we said
girl.
hey. So it's so funny, and that, but I always say that you just never know who someone is, and I think that's the problem a lot of times, especially women. We might not. You feel like you have to know the person in order to sort of give love, or you know you might have this guard up. But I mean, it's just like, but whenever you walk in, like I'm always like, hey, and it could be the vice president. I won't even know. I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. So but you treat everyone that way and happy and respectful, and everyone will have the same opinion about you. Oh, hey, I saw you. Yeah, you
Right.
got good energy. Or yeah, oh yeah. You won't even know who it is, but your reputation speaks so much more about you than me coming in and giving you my full resume. So I rather my reputation, how you know
Exactly.
me.
And I think too, a lot of times when people throw that resume out in the beginning, it's a insecurity factor. When I go into a room, I'm very quiet. I just don't, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. And it's hilarious. I'm gonna add this really quick because this is real. I went to Pinky's event from Slutty Vegan. She has the American Sesh, right? So I went to American Sesh and I stood up because I'm a cancer survivor as well, and one of her employees had cancer. So I was just back on radiation. Her radiation started the same, well, she was on chemo, started the same day I started radiation. So I'm in tears, right? So I stood up to give her some words of encouragement, but you have to introduce yourself, right? So I'm like, hi, my name is Dr. Nicole Mitchell. I'm the founder of Girls Who Brunch Tour. When I say I'm in tears, emotional talking to you, I heard behind me from all over. And I didn't think about it in that moment. So after I finished, I'm crying. My compliance officer, she's rubbing my arm. She's like, it's okay. We're about to leave out to go to the VIP. And I was bombarded with people. It was like I was the panelist. And you never know what you are putting out there, or what people are wanting to connect with you, or how so we always got to make sure we're not that mean girl, right? We always got to make sure we're putting out good energy, because all these people either knew who I was or knew who the organization was, and they wanted to connect, and they're like, oh my gosh, she was here. And that, once I left and got home and processed it, girl, I cried. But that's just an example of just being in the room. I stood up to serve. I stood up because this young lady is talking about her cancer situation at this moment, and I just want to let her know she's going to be okay, right? You found out early. You're going to make it, right? It's going to be hard. I'm giving her words of encouragement, and the room is like, oh my gosh, So your work is going to stand for itself. It's going to show who you are. And that's what I always tell people. Let the titles go. Let the egos go. And just let your work show who you are. Let that speak for you.
I love that. That's right. That's right. Now
Oh,
you gonna
baby.
remember me.
I
You gonna
got you,
remember Holly
baby.
Cotton. But 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 I ain't gotta lead with it. I ain't
Exactly.
gotta
You
lead.
gonna know who I am. I don't care. Because it's those women who are, oh, I'm this and I'm that. They're the ones who's actually been studying you. That's the funniest thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, me too. And people will be like, "And what do you do?" Oh, I just nothing. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff. Entrepreneur, whatever. Like I just feel so weird. And then people when they start talking about it, it's just like you kind of like, yeah, that's me, that's me. But that ain't my purpose. My purpose is about empowering. My purpose is about showing
Exactly.
other people's stories. It's about highlighting other people, using my voice, all that kind of stuff. So same thing, same thing. I love that. I love. See, I knew
Yes,
we was like
girl.
sisters. I knew it when you used my safety pin. I
And you
knew where
saved
we
me,
were.
friend. Look at that. All from a safety pin.
I was like, take what you need, what you need. I mean, I get another one at the Dollar Tree. It ain't that serious. Like, just take whatever you need. You need
Right.
some help.
Right.
So,
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I will also have all of that information. I will have taggable. I'm not taggable. I'll have clickable links in the podcast notes. You guys know that, as well as whenever I post on social media, I'll have Dr. Mitchell tagged and everything as well. So all of that stuff is good. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it. I'm so glad to connect with you, and I cannot wait to be part, because I'm about to volunteer too. I want to be a part of the
Thank you.
movement
We're going to
too.
see you in New Orleans for Essence Festival.